Hey Lucas, it's good to see you back. Didn't realize you even deleted your channel, but I just found your new one. So, um, oneness. Everything is one. Um, but I don't think that that's the final realization. I think that's when the path begins. That's when you can um, that's when you can begin to philosophize, to love wisdom, because wisdom is essentially knowledge of the one. You come to recognize that everything is one, and then a whole new series of problems emerge for you, because you are different from me. While everything is one, in this life as separate beings with our own sensory perception and desires and emotions, independent of one another, we are many. Um, but of course, the many um, become one and are one. There's just this time thing that we deal with that separates us from eternity. But really, time is temporary, as they say. It lasts between birth and death. But between death and a new birth, we return to the one. We become eternal. But, of course, there's reincarnation, which, I say of course. I don't assume everyone agrees with me about that, but life, the life of this universe also has a birth and a death, and between the birth and death of this universe, there is reincarnation of individual beings, I would say. And of course, there is a reincarnation of this universe as a whole, but then let's just get back to the oneness and forget reincarnation for a minute. You said there's no knowledge. We never have knowledge. We don't have knowledge until we have knowledge of ourselves, you said. And I think that's exactly right. Because once you recognize that everything is one, you've still got to deal with your separateness. You've got to deal with your psychological perspectives, needs, wants, desires, fears, because, with desire comes fear, because desire includes not only lust and eroticism and attraction, but it's a kind of hunger. So, while we may want to be loved by someone else, we don't necessarily want them to eat us, like chew us and swallow us. We don't want to be consumed by them. We don't want to be eaten by an animal, by a tiger or something, even if it means that they really love us, they really desire us. It's not really mutual. So once we realize oneness, the path begins, and the path is coming to terms with your separateness, all your emotional hang-ups, your personality disorders and neuroses, and in some cases psychoses, because once you enter this spiritual world in pursuit of the one, you become susceptible to psychosis, to complete insanity, because it's forcing you to recognize that you did not come from this world. And by this world, I mean the world of the senses, the world that we can empirically measure. Your conscious experience is from elsewhere. It has a spiritual origin. And I think that's what, any philosopher or any person on the spiritual path has recognized oneness. And in our perceptual experience, there's only manyness and separateness and distinctness. So this is a spiritual realization of oneness. An invisible, non-sensory, or super-sensible perception that's not in this world. Once you've realized that, then you begin the path of trying to transcend your psyche, basically. Because the psyche is born and dies. but there is something involved with the psyche. Maybe we'll call it the self or the spirit that doesn't die, that lives on, that lives eternally, right? The trick is, how do we contact that right now in life, between birth and death? If we assume that after death, then before new birth, we will be returned at least to the stars, if not to the source itself. By the stars, I mean the astral realm, or the realm of souls, heaven, maybe. Bear with the metaphorical language. I can't use any better terms to refer to what I'm talking about. But again, these are spiritual realities, what these words refer to, and I can't point to them in the empirical world. That doesn't mean that we can't share an understanding of these things. If we share these experiences of inner worlds of experience, we can talk about them with one another, but not everyone shares these inner worlds. It's not as simple as the physical world, that so long as you have, physical senses, you can see and make judgments about. It's a world that requires training in order to reach, and in order to realize and talk about. And, the training involves, I don't need to tell you. It involves facing life, facing your fears, which can include meditating, it can include reading and studying, it can include compassionate action, it can include any number of things, so long as it is based in direct experience. And, I think you can think in a living way. You can conceptualize and do philosophy and, read Kant and all that stuff that I love to do, and still recognize a spiritual truth. So, you're thinking about going back to college and all that. And I think, there's a machine element to it, a deceitful element, but, what are you going to school for? If you're going to school for a degree, then yeah, that's not really worth it. You're just there to be programmed to jump through some hoops so that they can check you off and sign the paper and send you on your way. But if you want to learn, if you want to seek wisdom, a university is a good place to be. But you've got to be willing to put the effort forth in order to get the wisdom from the university. They don't just hand it out anymore. It's too bureaucratic and factory-like for that. If you want it, you're going to have to get it. And so, take that into consideration. So yeah, there's oneness, but there's also manyness. And as separate beings, as part of the many, we can't have perfect knowledge of the world. We can't know anything. We can only make assumptions based on our needs and wants and desires and fears. But we can be certain of oneness if we love wisdom. And, being wise means recognizing that you can't live without loving others and loving yourself. You need to be loved and you need to love. And, you can never assure that anyone else is necessarily going to love you, but you can love yourself and you can love others. And that's all you need, to be loved, whether by someone else or yourself, and to love. Wisdom follows from that. But, it's not as simple as just saying, I love everyone, of course. I don't need to tell you that. It's very difficult to actually bring this about in your life, because you have reincarnated so many times. You You have all this baggage and karma attached to your existence that you've got to account for before you can really begin to water the seed at your core, the Buddha nature, or the Tathagata Garbha in Sanskrit, the suchness within that you can manifest. So, yeah, keep your videos coming, Luke. I always agree and enjoy the perspectives that you offer. So, take it easy.